Don't play with the fire. The locals in Romania used to say. I didn't understand it at first, although I knew that they were very superstitious people. I'm a construction engineer and have been recently sent to Romania with the company for a big contract that we won. The construction of a 27-floor building of business offices. I arrived in Bucharest Friday, and the project was set to begin on Monday, so I had the weekend for myself. I wanted to visit the city, have some fun, and since it was my first time in Romania, but I didn't know anyone. My colleague Kevin was going to arrive on Saturday, and the other members of the team had the flights booked on Sunday. It was 6 p.m. and I was in my hotel room when the phone rang. It was Kevin. Hey man, how is it there? Tell me the first impression. Oh hey Kev, I don't really know yet. I mean, the city looks nice and all, but I haven't been anywhere yet. I'm still in the room. I wish I knew someone to go out tonight. I have a couple beers, but I guess I'll have to wait until tomorrow. I don't really like going out alone. Well, why don't you try to hang out with some of the locals? Kevin asked. And how would I do that? Go to some random strangers and ask them to hang out with me. I laughed. Try the local Reddit. Go and make a post and say that you're new in town and if there's anyone who wanted to go out for a beer or something. That's not a bad idea, Kev. I think I'll do that. I'll test the beer for you, and tomorrow when we go out, I'll know which one is good. Yeah, you do that, man. Look, I gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow. Yep, bye, Kev. I got off the phone, opened my laptop, and I had it on Reddit. I created a post. Hello, everyone. I just arrived for the first time in Bucharest, and I was wondering if there's someone willing to show me around, to go out for a beer or something. P.S. I don't speak Romanian, so it'd be nice if you speak English. A few replies came, welcoming me to the city, wishing me a pleasant stay and stuff like that. And then the following reply came. Hi man, we're a bunch of Reddit friends who frequently go out for beer, and we actually have scheduled a meeting tonight. You can join us if you like. DM me for more details. I clicked on the poster account, reviewed it a bit, and found out that the guy was mostly interested in cats, technology, and cooking. I sent him a DM telling him that I'd like to join them, and to give me some details about where we're going and when to meet. He responded with the name of a bar, which looked pretty nice from the Google photos, and to be there outside at 9 p.m. And then he sent me his phone number. It was already 7:30 p.m. by now, so I jumped in the shower, got dressed, and called an Uber. I made it to the bar 10 minutes earlier and I saw 5 guys around their 20s waiting outside. I took my phone and I called the number that he had sent me. And then I saw one of the guys picking up his phone and answering. I'm here and I think I see you actually. I said, a bit confused, because this could have also been just a coincidence of timing and phone calls. He looked around and he fixed on me and said, Yeah, that's us, come on over. Now, I've always been an extrovert. However, meeting a new group of guys makes me feel a bit nervous, especially in a different country. I walked towards them. Hey guys, I'm Ross, it's nice to meet you. Well, hey Ross, I'm Andrea. The guy I spoke on the phone was said. And then he pointed to the other guys and said, This is Mihai, Dan, Angelo, and Bogdan. We headed inside and got ourselves a table and ordered some beers. The guys seemed curious about me. They made me feel like the center of the attention, but not in an awkward way. I found out that they're all students from different colleges, and they all met on the local Reddit some years ago and became friends. Angelo was studying to become a doctor. Mihai was passionate about music, and he had 2 rap songs already. Bogdan was a very dedicated gamer, which made him skip most of his classes and had to repeat the last year of the college. This made me laugh. Dan was trying to become a bodybuilder, and that was a visible thing. I told them about myself and what I do for a living, about the project that we're about to start in Bucharest, and about my passion for horror. Well, if you like horror, we have a haunted lake here close to Bucharest. It's called the Witch's Pond, Angelo said. After a short pause, he continued. It is said that at night, witches are casting spells, and if you go there, bad things will happen. Not even the animals will drink from it. Oh really? I've always been excited about stories with haunted places, but I never got the chance to visit one. So where is it exactly? I asked. You want to go there? Bogdan asked. Andrei chuckled, put his beer on the table and said, It's about 15 kilometers outside of Bucharest, located in the middle of a forest. If I think about it, we lived our whole lives here, but we never thought of going there. What do you guys think? Should we go for it after we finish the beers? My first thought was not to go in the forest outside of Bucharest with some guys that I only met 2 hours ago. But after a bit of consideration, these guys looked nice and harmless, and I didn't feel threatened around them at all. Plus, I always wanted to visit a haunted place. Well, let's do it, I said firmly, the alcohol starting to kick in by this moment. Should we call an Uber, or how do we reach there? Yeah, let's go, it'd be fun, Bogdan said, and everyone agreed. Let's pay the tab and call for an Uber. We paid for the beers, went outside while Bogdan was on the Uber app trying to set the destination point to the Witch's Pond as close as he could. He had to do it manually since it had no exact address. The Uber should be here in about 3 minutes, guys. I requested for 2 cars since we have 6 people, Bogdan said. It was dark and I felt so excited for what I was going to do. My whole life was so monotonous. Work, home, the occasional night out. But for the first time in my life, I was going to do something like this. Something I've always wanted. I felt the adrenaline rushing through my body. The cars arrived and I got into one with Andrei and Angelo, while Bogdan, Mihai, and Dan got into the second car. The Uber driver looked a bit suspicious and frightened when he saw the destination point. And while noting this, Andrea assured him that we were only some drunk guys trying to have some fun and visit the said haunted place, and that he doesn't really need to worry about it. We arrived after 20 minutes and got out of the car. It was pitch black and the headlights were the only source of light all the way out there. And the second car arrived about a minute later, being delayed due to catching a red light behind us. We all gathered and turned on our phones' flashlights. Mihai said, We should enter the forest from the other side of the road and walk straight for 2 minutes. Then we should reach the Witch's Pond. At least that's what Google says. It was cold outside and a very deep silence. The type of silence that doesn't feel right. Mihai went first and we followed. We climbed a small cliff and entered into the forest. We made our way to the Witch's Pond. Walking over dead branches and leaves brought a bit of a sound in the deep dead silence that we were surrounded by. After about 1 minute of walking through the forest, the wind started to blow, and all of a sudden, Mihai screams, Holy crap, guys, stop! There's a dead deer over here. A strong rotten smell hit me, and I wanted to puke. The wind was now blowing the smell right towards us. We bypassed it, holding our breaths, and while I got next to it, I took a glance at the deer. Something was off. It didn't look like the deer had died from an animal attack or from some hunter. It had no visible wounds, and even if it smelled so bad, it didn't look like it was decomposing yet. I got down to my knees and saw her eyes wide open, and marks of blood poured out of them. I put my hand on her neck, and that's when I was shocked. It was still warm. Her entire body was still warm. I couldn't understand why there was this smell already present if the deer had died just moments before. I thought that there possibly could be another deer around, and the smell wasn't coming from this one. so I took a breath of air. That previous smell was 10 times stronger now, and I can't explain what I felt. I can only say that it was the most awful feeling that I've ever felt. At the beginning, I felt a very strong nausea followed by a feeling of terror. I wanted to leave, but now my legs were weak, and I felt like I couldn't stand up. My vision started to get blurry, and before I knew it, Andre had grabbed my arm and helped me to stand up. "What are you still doing here, man? I had to come back for you. We didn't even notice when you were left behind. How can you stay in this awful smell?" he asked. "There's something very wrong with this deer, Andrea," I said. "Even if it smells like it was decomposing for a few days, it just died. I just put my hand on her body and it's still warm." "That's impossible, man. Your mind's playing tricks on you. There's no way that her body is still warm. You felt that rotten smell. It has been at least 3 days since she died," Andre replied, with a bit of worry on his face at this moment. "Come on, let's go. The boys are waiting for us," he continued. We headed back to the group and kept going forward. The air started to feel heavy, and the cold was getting colder with how much we advanced towards the pond. We reached a zone where the trees stopped and found ourselves in a small circular area with a pond in the center. The vegetation seemed dead all over the place, and the pond had a greenish color, the color of a sick water. The whole place looked so unnatural. I turned off the light on my phone, opened the camera, and took a picture of it. It was my first visit to a haunted place, so I had to have a memory of it. "So, no witches here," Angelo said. And Mia took a picture of me in front of the lake. Angelo headed towards the water and sat with his back at it. "You're too close. Go a bit more near the lake," Mihai said. Angelo took a few steps behind and stepped on a moist piece of mud. Scared, he took unconsciously a few steps behind and landed in the water. Come on. Now my feet are not only muddy, but I'm also wet." Angelo had a fury expression on his face while getting out of the pond, shaking his feet which were pouring with water. "And by the look of that water, you're going to stink as well," I said. "I'm not sharing the Uber with you on the way back," I chuckled. By that time, he didn't want to take the photo anymore and he came back to us. Dan, being amused by the whole situation, said, "Let's sing something, in case there are some nearby animals. We'll scare them and leave the area." I nodded. It felt like a good idea to keep us safe from any stray dogs or maybe even wolves. "Yeah, that is a good idea. We could do that for a minute and then go back to the main road and call for a cab," I said. "I don't know any Romanian songs, but I can be the judge on who's the best singer." The guys all agreed on a song and started singing all at once. They were terrible, and a bunch of untalented drunk guys singing seemed so funny. I listened carefully, and to keep my promise and to nominate one winner, when all of a sudden I heard a great singing voice. The voice was pure. It was music to my ears, and that's when it hit me and I got frozen. It was a girl's voice. A few seconds later, my new friends heard it too, and stopped singing as they noticed. One by one, the voice kept singing. It was starting now to accelerate and change the tone from a sweet one to an angry and fast-paced flow. The sound was getting higher and it seemed like we could hear it from all around us. The forest was hit by a hard wind, shaking all the trees, and the voice was starting to sound louder and louder. The song now was changed to what sounded like a Latin language incantation. The bushes around us started to move frenetically. The leaves were flying in the wind, and the wind was blowing so hard now that it was hard to hear anything besides it. But the voice was still as clear as before. Angelo fell on his knees, with his head against his chest, and he started shouting,
"Nex adu immortalis, libri spondeo nex."
a strong smell of rot appeared, just like the one I had sensed on the deer, and it seemed like it was coming from him. The voice now started to shout the same thing as Angelo, and I needed no invitation to get the heck out of there. I ran as fast as I could, in the direction that I thought we came from, barely seeing in front of me and hoping that I wouldn't run into a tree. The guys followed as I heard them running and screaming behind me. A feeling of cold and a deep sleepiness took over me, but I had to fight it, to remain focused and get the heck out of that forest as soon as I could. The voice was still everywhere, as loud as before, but the wind started to blow even more ravishing. I was practically running as fast as my body could and jumping over dead tree trunks, looking left and right to see if there was anything in the woods, but there was nothing. Nothing that could be seen at least. I saw in front of around 50 meters the tree line ending, and I knew that I had headed the right way, and I was almost out of here. I looked behind and saw Mihai around 5 meters behind me, Dan and Bogdan around 30 meters behind us, still running. "We're almost out," I had screamed to the boys. A very loud crack sounded in front of us. The sound scared me and I tripped. I got back up a few seconds and I kept running. A large tree fell in front of me, and it just missed me by a few meters. It was a gigantic old tree, at least 300 years old, and it was snapped in half. The voice now transformed into an even angrier one, and the tonality sounded like screeching wheels. By this moment, Dan and Bogdan had reached us and we continued to run. We were practically seeing the road by now. A few more seconds had passed and we left the woods, reaching the main road. The voice was gone by now. The wind was not blowing any longer and the air felt normal again. I sat down on the road, heavily breathing and thinking that only I didn't trip. I looked at the guys and everyone was terrified. No one could say a thing. Mihai took out his phone and opened the cab app, enabled his geolocation, and he ordered a car. We sat in silence waiting, and after about 20 minutes, the cab had arrived. We went inside and sat quietly for the whole road. I really wanted to say something, but I just couldn't. I just didn't know what to say. When we arrived in town, we headed straight to the police and told them what had happened, and that we had left Angelo behind. Of course, with all the drinking we had done earlier in the night and the completely bizarre story we told them, they didn't believe us. But they did go and investigate. The second day that I was there, I looked in the news and saw that a 23-year-old boy was found dead on the Witch's Pond. Cause of death: heart attack. My phone rang and it startled me. It was Kevin and I answered. "Hey Kev, what's going on?" "Hey man, just landed in Bucharest. Waiting for a cab to get me to the hotel. Can you please give me the address again? I lost it somehow." "Yeah, no problem. I'll send you a share location right away, Kev." "Oh, and I almost forgot. Do you?" The phone exploded with static. I looked at my screen. It had now displayed a phone number that I didn't recognize. After a few seconds of static, I heard a very low voice, but I couldn't understand anything. I put my phone on speaker mode, and I pressed the volume button up to the max. At that moment, I froze. It said,
Nex adu immortalis. Libri spondeo nex. Adve hoc mort animadverto. Opero non timeo. Salus est procuramus.